It encourages you to laugh at poking a spear in and watching your intestines fall out.
See, like that. Isn't it cool?
The Mummy's Toy is a little later, but first, many of us have travel horror stories to tell, but that of 27-year-old Australian Hazel Delgado might be hard to top. After flying from Chicago to London, Hazel was naturally keen to get off the plane, but you see, that was a bit difficult, unassisted as Hazel is a quadriplegic, and the airline staff just forgot her, leaving her helpless and alone in the plane for nearly 2 hours. How could they? As Elise Mooney tells us, Hazel's story is not an isolated one.
Imagine this holiday horror. You're trapped on a plane after it has landed, you've been forgotten, you're alone, and you're disabled.
Well, I was sitting so near the window so I could see the bus pull up, and I honestly thought, OK, I'll be getting off soon. And then as I sat there and watched it pull away, and I'm thinking, I'm supposed to be leaving, I'm supposed to be on that bus. And it was quite a strange feeling, thinking, I'm not getting off it, this isn't working quite the way it's supposed to.
Quadriplegic Hazel Delgado was left alone on an American Airlines flight after it had landed at Heathrow Airport for an hour and a half.
Slightly sort of scared because I didn't know what was going to happen, and very frustrated because there was nothing I could do to help myself. I mean, I could call out, but there was no one there.
It's hardly what you would expect from an airline. They pride themselves on providing special assistance to disabled passengers. But unfortunately, Hazel's case is not an isolated one. John Moxon from the Physical Disability Council.
Well, I'm not surprised. We do know that both Ansett and Qantas have refused to carry with people with disabilities in New South Wales and throughout Australia. We know there are complaints before the Human Rights and Equal Opportunity Commission about this.
One case involving Evelyn Cole, who has since died, is before the Commission this week.
I think they discriminated against my mother because she is a person with a disability and that she was in a wheelchair, and that perhaps it was all too hard for the airline to carry her on that flight.
Evelyn Cole was wheelchair-bound and had speech and hearing disabilities due to a stroke 20 years ago. But that didn't stop the intrepid traveller. She regularly flew interstate to visit her sons. But one flight changed all that. Her son Nathan explains.
She was actually on the plane, she went through the check-in and all the various security functions that you go through when catching a plane. She was actually seated on the plane and then removed from the plane, and there's been absolutely no offer of refund whatsoever.
Qantas has refused to speak to Today Tonight during the case, but has told the Commission Mrs Cole was not permitted to travel because she could not communicate with staff on the aircraft and could not confirm that she could eat or go to the toilet independently. Nathan Cole claims that's discrimination.
The next day, Mum was a different type of person, and despite her limited capacity to speak, she kept saying, why did this happen? And we didn't know. We didn't know why it happened, and we couldn't provide that answer to Mum. And as such, you could imagine how a person felt in Mum's position, where the humiliation and rejection suffered the previous night. She was absolutely devastated. The very next day, when I saw her, she said, I refuse to travel by air again. And that was probably the greatest impact, and the emotional stress that she had was that she felt that she would not be able to see her family again.
Hazel Delgado is similarly scarred. At 27, she had embarked on her first solo trip overseas. Instead of liberating her, the incident has left her shattered.
Yes, it actually really then slaps you in the face that you have a disability, because most places you go or whatever, you don't tend to think about it because it makes things easy. When this comes along, you suddenly think, I'm so reliant on people, and you don't like to think that.
It's gorgeous though. We're going to have a nice weekend again this weekend.
Hazel's mother, Mary, is outraged.
You right here? I think it's extremely damaging to their self-esteem, their confidence, their own self-image. Because rather than saying you're an independent young woman who's taken on, a travel around the world, what it says is, well, tough luck, you're stuck on this plane and you're here until somebody's prepared to help you.
And you get off after the luggage.
Well, exactly. You get off after the luggage, and you only get off because the cleaners have sort of found you on here.
Hazel says what adds insult to injury is how American Airlines dealt with the issue afterwards. She had to wait more than 2 months for a written reply. It included a token cheque for $450 and a letter of apology.
It was kind of pathetic. I mean, there's not that much money, and to a big corporation like that, it's absolutely nothing, which just shows how concerned they were about the whole thing.
In the letter, the airline admitted it was deeply saddened to learn of its dismal performance. In a statement to Today Tonight, American Airlines says, "We realise our handling of this particular situation was not the right answer, and we've apologised to the Delgados for this."
We would like the airline to look at changing its practices and how they deal with people with disability.
Well, I think we're going backwards. A few years ago, it was actually quite easy to get the airlines to help you on the planes and off the planes, and they were doing everything they could to make it easy for you. But no longer. They seem to be making it as difficult as they can now.
Number 3. All passengers to Bilgate on flight 450.
Elise Mooney reporting there. Now, after we began investigating this story, American Airlines offered to refund Hazel Delgado the $3,000 it cost for her ticket. Next, should these toys be allowed in the hands of 4-year-olds?